Hi, I'm Doug Austin, and I'm the editor of eDiscovery Today, a daily blog about eDiscovery, information governance, cybersecurity, data privacy, and artificial intelligence trends, best practices, and case law. Welcome to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader interview series, where we interview thought leaders in eDiscovery and related legal technologies. Today, we're conducting another thought leader interview by video, and we've got a guest who's been a thought leader for over more than a decade in just about every area of legal technology, from software and services to sales and marketing. Monica Harris of Consult Harris Collective. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. So before we get started, let me introduce Monica. Monica has over a decade of engineering, training, consulting, product development, sales, and marketing leadership experience in the e-discovery industry. She's a crusader for the development and implementation of cross-collaborative initiatives inside and outside of organizations that increase positivity, productivity, revenue, and margin. And she recently embarked on her latest adventure, which is starting her own consulting firm, which is very exciting. Ready to get started, Monica?
Absolutely. Let's do it, Doug.
Okay. So I'll start by congratulating you on starting your own consulting firm. And you've provided technology, consulting, and project and business management for several companies over the years. So
Yeah.
why did you decide this was the right time to start your own consulting business?
Um, First, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to our audience and community. Now is the right time because of just the history and the experience that I've had. I am a classically trained IT technologist. I have an IT degree. I started off first in telecom, designing call systems with Avaya in the school district of Philadelphia, which is originally where I'm from. After that, I worked with a 501(c)(3) that had a wired Workforce Innovation Regional Economic Development grant from the Department of Labor. So that was 3 years with $5 million trying to understand how we could help life sciences. That was a great experience. And then from there, I really fell back into IT. And I worked for a law firm, or I attempted to. I didn't get that opportunity. And instead, the person who was running IT inside that law firm brought me into their startup that they were running out of their living room. And they had a case where I had an opportunity to work with Chris Christie, believe it or not. I was 30 days old in eDiscovery in a courtroom with Chris Christie.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
interesting. That's quite a story.
yeah, that's how we got started. And then from there, I kind of went back to IT as a developer, but I worked for a company that had proprietary healthcare and litigation support software. And I went from being a developer to QA to help desk. And then that company was acquired by a company called eDiscovery. And from there we took off. With eDiscovery being at its start less than 100 people, I was very close to the leaders, and I had an opportunity to kind of use what I did with the 501(c)(3). How can we help? How can we address gaps? And I moved through all of those different arenas. I really found that product and innovation is where I like to be. Discovery had a lot of add-ons that differentiated it from other service providers. And so I would work with the engineering team for the requirements, and then I would test it. And then it was ready. I would come up with the training. I would engage the clients through the project managers, and we would get that technology in front of customers. So that's really where the product kind of management and marketing came from. And then I had an opportunity to work with digital forensics and some of the best experts in our industry who taught me so well that I was able to teach others. And so when I had this space, this time when I was looking for my next opportunity, I thought about all of that. I thought about what drove me, what my passion was, the things that I would do if I wasn't getting paid to do them, for example. And that really kind of involved being around tech, being very close to tech, being around tech that was emerging, that was innovative, and really getting it out to the larger community, to eDiscovery, to all of the related communities in a way that that they could understand how it addressed their pain points and the audience, the target audience, and could help the company grow and really help them have long-term success, have those customers come back to them over and over again because they were trusted partners that understood how to solve the pain points that the customers had. That was my sweet spot, and that was the innovation behind the company.
Sounds like a perfect reason to get started with your own company.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
um, I like your company's name, Consult Harris Collective. It's unique and interesting. So,
Yeah.
what inspired that name, and how does that reflect your approach?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I wanted to, as a sole proprietor, I wanted to have my name there, but not my first name. That's a bit much. But the last name, I think I was thinking about the wonderful Marla Moore and Connect More when I came up with that. In addition to that, I wanted to have the company name say what it did, but it's probably the collective piece that I wanted to make sure was there. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And I really wanted the customers or the prospective customers that I would engage to understand that it's truly a collective, that even though I'm a sole proprietor, that I have many relationships, many partnerships, and I rely on those to bring together the solutions that we craft, to bring together the innovation. And so, although it's me at the forefront, it's not just me. And I wanted to convey that in the name.
Yeah, well, and that's certainly true. I mean, you do have those connections and those partnerships and the folks you've worked with over the years. So, so let's talk a little bit about your services. What services are you providing? Who do you consider to be the primary prospect for those services?
Mhm.
And how do you expect to differentiate your services from other providers?
Ooh, those are all great questions. So, what I provide is innovative fractional services. And though they are targeted at tech companies that are in growth mode and looking for long-term success with their customers. So, what does that break down to in layman's terms? It is being at pre and also post sales. So, thinking about everything that we discussed in terms of my history and what's happening there. So, anything that is product marketing, anything that is solution architecting. And then, even from there, after the sale, the client experience, because I think that's very important. A lot of times, the focus is on the innovation, but not necessarily the client experience. And that's so important. Understanding that after the sale, the client will need the training, the documentation, the workflow optimization, everything that falls under client services, all of that. Those are the services that I could offer to these tech companies in a way that really allows them to grow scalably, excuse me, by offering them as fractional services.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, that's people don't talk enough about those types of services, the post-sale services, and I mean, that can really derail the whole process if you don't have that nailed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what makes me a differentiator, what differentiates me specifically, is that I've been in so many roles throughout my time in eDiscovery. I've been very fortunate to work with some individuals who opened doors for me, who believed in me, and gave me those opportunities to take on those roles. So when I'm looking at challenges or when I'm looking at solutions, I have the ability to address them from the perspective of just about everyone that touches it. And so I think that's the real differentiator there.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't agree more. So, let's talk trends here for a moment. You're a thought leader in the industry. So, what are some of the current trends in our industry that you're focused on, and which of those trends in the should industry professionals be more focused on?
That's interesting. So I think this wouldn't be a conversation if we didn't talk about the rise of generative AI. Of course. Of course.
Of course.
I think there is a difference between, say, tar and cal and then generative AI itself. And I don't necessarily know that either have been fully embraced, although tar and cal have been around for years. I think that that's still a subset of organizations of firms that are using it. But I think the difference between those two and, say, generative AI is ubiquitous throughout our lives. It's not just something that we do at work. You can go home and begin to leverage that. And that's just a different type of flanking when you talk about adoption. And so that's definitely a trend trend. That's my number one trend. I think after that, it's the proliferation of emerging data sources and AI, and how those two go together. I know right now we're looking at generative AI for document review, and that means text, but there's so many sources that are available, even sources that, they're still to be tackled, or there's not a lot of competition where they are tackled. So how does AI fit into that? And what are we going to do with that? And then lastly, I would say incident response, and both e-discovery and forensics innovation being integrated into incident response, and what that looks like. I think that that's a huge trend as well. So, what to pay attention to? I think that generative AI is not just a part of document review, but other places too, and to be looking for where that's happening. And then, in addition to that, to be looking for really the different parts of the EDRM to start merging. I think that's happening too as we're starting to expand. It used to be that a lot of innovation is happening on the left. We see a little innovation happening on the right too, and then we see convergence. We see convergence as well. So those are trends to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, and of course, the EDRM 2.0 project happening right now. They're looking at revamping the model. They're well into it. I think they're targeting by legal week to have something out, so we'll have to see. But yeah, absolutely. I think things are changing, and there's really a lot of blending and converging, like you say. Certainly, no doubt about it. And Gen AI, I mean, I think compared to Tar and Cow, one of the factors that, in addition to the fact that you mentioned that it's ubiquitous throughout our lives in and out of work, is all the different use cases you can apply to it, whereas Tar and Cal are pretty much review oriented. So
Right.
absolutely couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you're probably one of the more community-oriented people in our industry. You participated in ACEDS. In fact, I think you're still on the DC board, right? And you were chapter president at one point.
Yes.
Yeah, and Women in E-Discovery built,
Yes.
and so forth. So, first of all, how the heck do you find time to be involved in all these organizations? And
Yeah.
second, what has participation in them done for you in your career and life?
Oh, I don't know if there's words to really sum up what they've done, but I will most certainly try. So I must say, having my own business now, it does allow for more time to work with these organizations because you have flexibility, not necessarily more time, but flexibility. Um,
Right.
yes, there's a difference between the two. I am not confined to a 9 to 5 in order to get work done. There's more flexibility there. And so that means that I can work with more organizations, and I can do more things for the community. In terms of, just how those communities have impacted my career and in absolutely amazing ways, from the leaders who are in the communities, who gave me those opportunities. I think about the EDRM you brought up, the EDRM 2.0 project. I'm a part of that. I'm so
Mhm.
glad to be a part of that. And that has to do with the leadership not only of that project, but of the EDRM itself. And having those connections means that I can have conversations with individuals at an ACEDS event, at a built event, at a Women in E event, and you can say things like, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for this resource, I'm looking for technology, just any way that you can help. And due to an affiliation with an organization, you can give that help. And I think the measurement of your success should be how well you do for others. And that's what industry organizations allow you to do. And that's just to be in a position where you can help. That's absolutely priceless to me. That's very important. And it's at the core of what I do. And I think that's why I'm a part of so many organizations. And I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to do so.
Sure. Well, yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I think you and I may have met at at an ACEDS function like years ago. I
Exactly.
think that was like one of the first times we met. So yeah,
Exactly.
I mean they are great ways to get to really know your colleagues in the industry and like you say, help each other and work with each other and what have you. So absolutely, I mean they're wonderful.
They're,
So
yeah, they're very much so. You're not going to be successful sitting at home on your couch, unfortunately.
no,
Get out.
no, no.
You
Yeah,
have to meet some folks, and
absolutely.
you have to network, and so they provide platforms for that professional development, and it's really great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly is. So, so one of the things you talked about, certainly, and you've done, and I think you're looking to do, planning to do it with your new organization is helping companies amplify business reach and connecting with target audiences. So, how do you propose to do that in a way that isn't an overt sales pitch?
My secret sauce you are asking me for.
Well,
Absolutely.
I know you don't have to give away any secrets.
No,
Just,
absolutely, absolutely, because the recipe is not the same as the cook. So let's discuss the recipe.
there we go.
So I would say, you have to solve, or how am I going to do it? How am I going to help them? So I'm going to help these customers or these clients by having them or bridging the gap between their technology and the real world problems that they solve. That's very important. I think that a lot of technology companies, you see amazing, brilliant people who can build this software from the ground up, but then there's the conversation with their target audience and what that looks like. And so that's about really solving those pain points and making sure that it's understood in the development process and in the conversation that it's done in a defensible, transparent, and explainable manner. A lot of this is emerging tech, and this is the legal industry that we're talking about. In some cases, it's cyber, and in some cases, it could be forensics, but we're still talking about customers who don't necessarily have the technical acumen that the software has. That's part of the challenge that it could solve. And so just making sure that when these customers are operating within the software and then with other parties, you just have something that's very transparent. Helping these customers create credibility and trust, positioning them as experts and positioning them as thought leaders so that they can really create those bridges with their customers. And then also the scalable business model by offering fractional business services like the ones that I have, and also ensuring that the companies focus on the target or the niche audiences, the underserved, the ones who need them the most, instead of a broader, larger audience where we often see the broader, larger players who, have been there for quite some time, perhaps even decades. And I think lastly, if not most importantly, is prioritizing the client experience. A lot of times the focus is on the innovation, but it's the client that you want to have come back to you again and again. And so ensuring that those post-sales pieces are there as well so that the clients return. And then not only that, but the clients become organic marketing so that they then go out and advocate for the company so that you have that as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the best sales technique is creating happy clients. That's always the way to get more sales and keep the clients coming back. So, absolutely. All right. So, final question. As a legal technologist, I'm sure you're a big advocate of the importance of driving innovation in an organization. So, how do you think organizations can succeed in doing so?
That's a great question. A lot of the times at networking events, that is the conversation. You'll run into one organization that is very innovative, and then other organizations want to get there, and the question is how. I think that most importantly, you have to foster a culture of innovation. Meaning you have to encourage curiosity within your companies. You have to encourage cross collaborative innovation because that really encourages also the curiosity. And you have to have a tolerance for a little bit of risk. Scary thing, risk, but you have to have the tolerance for risk. And when it works well, you have to reward it. So that encourages the curiosity and that encourages the cross collaboration as well. We are talking about business, so you do have to align the innovation with the business. Those two things have to go together. And that could just be, defining success metrics for what that looks like, and then also prioritizing your ROI. That's also very important. And last but not least, building a strong technology foundation or having the technology stack. Talking to these tech startups, understanding the value that they have, and also the problem that they solve, so that you're bringing in the right tools to your company.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think a lot of startups may be good at the innovation, not so good at defining those success metrics and the ROI. So
Mhm.
I think that's very important.
That's it.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, all right. I want to thank my guest, Monica Harris of Consult Harris Collective. Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Doug.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader Interview Series. See you next time on the eDiscovery Today Video Network. Goodbye.